Welcome to the Phoenix Prosperity Podcast, where wealth meets legacy. Join your host, Tim Fergestad, as we explore the journeys of Phoenix's finest to success and beyond.
Hello, this is Tim Fergestad. Thank you for joining us. I'm very pleased to have Hubert Johnson with me here today. Hubert has been a tax attorney for 15 years, taught tax law at Baruch College. Did I say that right?
Yes.
All right. In New York City. Lectured at seminars and trainings for tax professionals, has co-written a couple of books, hosts the TV show Taxes Made Easy. He's also married with 5 kids, 3 grown, coached youth sports for 16 years, currently referees soccer for his 13-year-old son, fluent in Spanish due to his 2-year mission in Peru, supports junior achievement, gospel rescue mission, and volunteers with his church as the party planner. Welcome to the show, Hubert.
Thanks, Tim.
Oh, a lot of great stuff there. Before we dive into all the legal and law and tax stuff, let's talk first about pointing out that you have 3 kids grown out of 5. That's
grown.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I have 2 and they're still in school and at home. So I think you're winning.
Yeah, I've got a 10-year-old and a 13-year-old, 8th grader and a 5th grader. But my older boys, one of them, he's 18 and he's actually in Nebraska in the Midwest on a mission. Okay. He left this last summer, June, and he's gearing up for a Nebraska winter. I keep laughing. Okay. He's going to love it. But, and then I have a 19-year-old that he's doing a service mission. So he's doing a lot of volunteer work again for 2 years, but he's halfway through that. And then my oldest did a mission in Chile and Washington, and he's working and going to school right now. Okay. So trying to figure it out, figure life out.
Excellent. I was just talking to somebody, some of my partners have done missions and we were just talking about how it's an incredible growth opportunity. So many of the successful people I know have done things like that, right? And it's part of very reinforcing, right, for the mind and your goals to go out in a foreign environment and be interacting with all sorts of people all day long and getting a lot of no's and a lot of less than positive reinforcement, right, for a long time, and to still be able to stick with it, anyway, it's just incredibly beneficial, and it provides them with the perseverance and so forth for all the challenges coming later, which is just super great opportunity.
I think, and this is in general in life, it really helps, especially when you're young, to gain a good perspective. Mm-hmm. I had a chance to go with a teacher. I went kind of like a ride along with a teacher in inner city Norfolk, Virginia, and 40% of the kids had witnessed a murder. There were drug dealers on the corners driving to the school, and I mean the teacher just shared so much. This was his life. This was reality for those kids, and I don't understand that. When you see and you help people from all walks of life, it really does broaden your perspective and open your mind.
Sure. Okay, so incredibly valuable. Yeah, what is all this for, right? What are all the tax laws for and everything? It comes down to people, right? And making the world better.
Yeah, it comes down to helping people. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So before we get into the details of all the tax changes and all the things that are on my mind and your mind, let's also talk a little bit about the books and the TV show. Can you tell me about those?
So the books, one of them was a training manual used for tax professionals, and I've used that in different trainings in my own company. I founded Guardian Tax Law 6 years ago, but also it was published and it's been used in training other tax professionals as well, enrolled agents, tax preparers, and tax attorneys, teaching them how to do tax debt resolution. It's a very specific niche that I love being in this little niche. And we don't really go out of it much, but it's a little known area of law that a lot of people just don't understand. So if you're talking one of the common things I run to, if you go to a divorce attorneys, they don't understand tax. Most of them even have clauses in their contracts that they don't give any tax advice. They're not liable for any mistakes they make.
Right.
And they make them all the time because divorce attorneys and judges they're usually not good at math and they don't know anything about taxes.
Right. Okay. Well, but they're smart enough to know that they don't know.
Sometimes.
Well, they have a disclaimer. You said so.
Some of them, yeah.
Okay. Those are at least wise enough to put that in.
Put that in there, yeah.
Okay. And how about the show?
Well, I started doing it last January and just kind of fell into my lap. And we talk about current events, again, with all the tax policies, with the elections, there's so much going on. There's so much to understand. And there's been a lot of changes that people just don't understand. That's some of the things I want to talk about today is what's new, what's going to surprise people. I can't tell you how many people don't know about laws on the books that have been around for years, implemented for decades, and people get surprised. Big one when you're dealing with investment is FinCEN and FBAR. If you have foreign accounts, anything over $10,000 needs to be reported, or you could face a 50% penalty of the asset and potential criminal penalties. And it's scary. And there's a
small fee or fine. Yeah.
Small fine.
50%. Yikes. Okay. So before we dive into some of those things, let's get a quick snapshot of your business right now, what you do, what your company does.
So we specialize in helping with IRS and state taxes. Really, if you owe 10,000 or more, like you hear on a lot of the ads, we help you out. We handle business, personal taxes. We had a case that was accepted last week. Gentleman owed just under $300,000. We sell it for $3,500. We do amazing work for people that fit that situation, but not everybody fits that situation. Only about 20 to 30% of people actually fit for what's called an offer and compromise. But you can set it up where people don't have to pay the taxes in a hardship status. I have one case where we set up an installment agreement. They owed $800,000 and are paying $130 a month. How would you like that installment agreement?
Yeah, right.
So it all depends what someone qualifies for. But we deal with the state and the IRS because there's a lot of interplay there. And believe it or not, there's states that you can do offers. We do a lot of offers with New York as well. And we've got them done through with other states as well. But it really depends on your situation. And our whole goal is really to help people understand what their tax obligations are, straighten up, because the general principle is that they will give you a deal on your past due taxes, but you've got to learn to be a good little taxpayer moving forward. Right. If you continue to owe and have problems, it'll default anything anybody sets up for you.
I see. Right.
That's the catch.
Okay. So that sounds like just one of your niches or whatever. Can you speak to some of the other things that set you apart?
Well, we also do help people with SBA loans, specifically EIDL loans. A lot of businesses are struggling with those. It's very similar to what the IRS does, which is why it makes sense for our business model. They have an offer and compromise program, a hardship program, but the IRS has come out, well, not the IRS, actually, the Treasury has come out and said that if you owe less than $200,000, if you do it right and your business is closed down, you can walk away from any debt less than $200,000. And we're helping people that are closing down their business, the economy, sometimes people are retiring. There's a lot of factors that go into it, but it really gives people peace of mind to be able to walk away from huge government debt that they just can't pay.
Right. Okay. And that's a particular problem right now, or at least there's a higher incidence of those types of fines?
There's a much higher incidence, but we help people if you just need time. You can pay as little as 10% of your original balance if you keep it with the SBA. So there's a reduction in payments. There's a few options available to them, and we explore that with clients and see what works best for their business. And sometimes buying them time so they can keep their business afloat is the best thing for them. Once it defaults, it gets really nasty.
Okay. Right. Okay. What comes easy to you that others in your space find challenging? Another way, the thing that sets you apart.
I enjoy the challenge of dealing with complicated cases. The scariest thing to business owners are payroll liability and sales taxes. So again, I just talked to someone that owed $30,000 in state sales taxes. No, I think it was $40,000 in state, $30,000 in local city sales taxes. And that's very scary for businesses because they treat it as if, well, you did receive the money. And for one reason or other, you were trying to survive. You didn't pay those taxes. Yeah. They go after individuals personally for that, as well as payroll taxes. They go after you for half of payroll taxes personally after your personal estate. And so when we're dealing with those issues, it really is a race to save the business. And I've saved plenty of businesses, got them on track, kept their business open and their livelihood open. And when people don't listen to me, I've seen doors padlocked. I've seen companies shut down when they don't respond. They don't provide what's supposed to happen. And it's scary. It's scary for people involved. And when we can, my office manager likes to tease me and tell me that I make people cry because they come in with all this stress and anxiety. I can't tell you how many times people come in and they're afraid the IRS is going to lock them up. They're going to get arrested. While that does happen, I just shared an article this morning about that happening. You have to do everything wrong. You have to listen to the wrong advice. If hiding assets, the article this morning was about a gentleman who only hid $1.4 million in income over a few years and actively was paying himself, cash, using other accounts to cash checks, et cetera, doing everything to hide this money. He was taking active steps. That's called tax evasion and fraud. And yes, he's going to prison. But most cases aren't like that. And even if you have played around and done some stupid things, coming clean with the IRS and straightening everything out is the best thing you can do, because in the end, they don't want to put you in prison. They want their money. Right. It's the largest collection agency in the world, and that's what they want. They want their money.
Right. So how many, gosh, that's hard for all the employees to see come into work and see the business padlocked.
Oh man, the worst case, I had a revenue officer, and this gal she hired me when she had a second summons. So a legal summons to appear.
So pretty late in the process. Very
late in the process. She blew off the first one, then hired me. I walked into the second summons and nothing was there. I got a 3-week extension for her, lease on life. I said, here's everything. I called her. I harassed her. We need the docs. We need the docs. We need to comply. We need to get this in. And she ghosted me for 2 months. The revenue officer scheduled an appointment, went and inventoried. It was a coffee house, and inventoried everything that was in the coffee house that wasn't fixed to the walls. It's like, I can take this, I can take that. And the poor employees were sitting there. The boss didn't show up for it because she was ghosting me too. And yes, those doors got padlocked. So don't hire an attorney and then ghost them. Bad idea.
Yeah. It's messed up. But okay. Let's talk a little bit about some of the other things that are happening right now that people need to be aware of. One thing is the Corporate Transparency Act.
So it's a new law.
Beneficial ownership information, right? Filing the
BOI, beneficial ownership information. And so it was implemented this year. The deadline for existing companies that have been around prior to 2024 is December 31st. So this year in 6 weeks, more or less. It's pretty easy to do. And I actually shared an article this morning where the IRS is doing, actually it's FinCEN is running this. It's not the IRS, different departments, but they're doing on Tuesday the 19th, they're doing a webinar on how to comply, how to go in. You can do it yourself. You can use a CPA. Most CPAs know how to do it, or you can look up, how do I do CTA reporting? But you just have to provide the information, and there are ways to do it where your personal information isn't out there in the public domain. So if you created a company in 2024, you have 90 days from the date of incorporation to report this information. So anybody that created a company in 24, only 90 days, and come January, it's only a 30-day window. So people creating businesses, creating new entities, you have to, again, this is another thing that's going to trip people up. If you don't know what you're doing, call us. We'll steer you in the right direction. And this is not something we do, but it's going to cause so many problems. And the penalties are $500 a day up to $10,000. So not chump change.
No. And before we get into, well, let's back up. So for our listeners and viewers, anybody who's set up like an LLC, some sort of entity, yes,
S corp,
it's you. You have to file this.
Partnerships,
yeah. And yes, it's you, and yes, it has to be done now. And it's not super big and complicated. You just have to make sure you do it. Weren't they trying to call this unconstitutional earlier in the year? And is with the presidential changes, is that going to affect this at all?
Well, in Alabama, I forget which district it was, but one of the districts, appellate districts, held that it was unconstitutional. And so the people in that judicial district don't have to comply with it. Oh. But it hasn't been decided by the Supreme Court yet. Will Trump change it when he gets into office on January 20th? Possibly. Okay. But until he does that, and again, I trust the GOP as much as I trust the Democrats, as far as I can throw them. Okay. So when it happens, great. Until then, I would not risk the fees and the penalties by saying I'll just hold off and hopefully they'll get rid of the whole thing, because you might start to get hit with those penalties starting January 1st. Or if you already have a business that you created in 2024, you could already be incurring those penalties.
Okay. And other than, I don't think this applies to me, or is this law not going to be upheld? Are there any other sort of arguments people make to try to avoid doing this?
Well, it's such a new thing that people haven't really contested it. Again, that's why it's been fought over in the courts. People sued it fairly quickly. Whether or not the Supreme Court will take it up, it very well might be a moot issue once the Trump administration gets in place. But is it going to be something that happens on January 20th on the date of inauguration? Probably not. It'll probably happen down the road. I know he's going to have a list of things he's going to want to sign. Who knows if this is going to be one of them? Okay. Very possibly, but I'll believe it when it happens. Sure. But as attorneys, we always try to be very protective. And if you can, and you can report it without putting your personal information out there. So I don't see a reason not to do it. I do have people that I can refer you to that can do that for you, where your personal information will not be out there and you can still comply with the law. And that webinar I mentioned, if you go to irs.gov and click on news, it's the very first article for the day up there.
Okay. Now this, for people who are wondering, it's November right now, and middle of November in 2024, and this episode may not air for a couple of weeks. So it may not be the top article anymore on the news thing, but the irs.gov has good information.
Well, they're organized by date. So you can go to, I believe it came out yesterday, 11/12. Okay. You just go to the date and it'll be there, and you should be able to find the webinar to go through and review that.
Okay. And for people who have a lot of entities, there's a somewhat streamlined process. You get a number, right? A FinCEN ID or something.
Again, I don't do this, but again, you should be talking to a CPA that does do this. And again, I work with law firms, other law firms that do corporate work. But this is something people need to get ahead of. So this doesn't impact my business, or again, we don't take on these clients, but it's information that we're trying to really get out there for people.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so moving on. What's another pressing topic that you think people need to know about in fall of or fourth quarter 24 tax changes?
So this actually happened last November, was a change to estimated tax payments. So there's always been a small penalty for not paying your estimated tax payments or not having sufficient withholdings from your W-2 income. And so most CPAs have advised people, just hold on to your money, invest it. You'll make more than the penalty. It's not that much anyway. It went up to 3% prior to 2023. And then November 23, Congress, in a bipartisan manner, decided to increase the penalty from 3% to 8%.
Oofda.
So that 8% is going to hit people when they file their taxes, and they start getting this back in April of 25. So if you've already missed most of your estimated tax payments, the best advice I can give you is start. The next deadline is January 15th. And if you haven't looked at what you're going to owe for or how much income you have, you can base it off the prior return. There's a safe harbor of 90% or 110% based on your total income. But most people have no idea how to do this because they don't have a current P&L. They don't look at their profit and loss until they file their extension 9 months into the next year, or for their business returns. And so it really, and I'm all the CPAs I'm talking to, I'm really emphasizing the need to be more proactive. You can use QuickBooks, you can do this, and it's just the same amount of work. Either you dump it on your CPA come tax time and they hate you, or you meet with them quarterly. You look over the numbers, get an idea of what you should be paying, and you can adjust it, and you pay throughout the year so you don't have a big bill at the end of the year, and you avoid this extra 8%. And there's no reason to pay it. Why give the IRS more money? And it helps if you're struggling to do it quarterly. I advise clients all the time to just do it monthly. You're getting a tiny bit of extra interest, but really, how much interest are you getting in your checking account anyway?
Right.
So it helps you build in that as an expense with your monthly budgets and get a hold of it. And also helps you run your business to have a monthly or a quarterly P&L and see what's going on.
For sure. Okay, excellent. As a tax attorney, you deal with all sorts of I imagine interesting cases and clients. Do you have a particular example of one that's particularly memorable?
Sure. Where do I start? You want scary or good? Let's start with scary, and then we'll go to good.
Okay.
So this is a new case, and of course they had gone from attorney to attorney, and this was a small manufacturing company. They manufactured small airplanes, had about 40 employees, so it was an ongoing business. The owners didn't take the IRS seriously. So when I called the IRS, they had a revenue officer, so someone assigned specifically to handle that case, which is not the best sign, but we know how to work with them. My very first call, the revenue officer told me, there's no way you're going to get a stay of execution on this one.
Oh boy.
So I laughed. What else are you going to do? So I laughed. And I said, well, I haven't. And she says, well, what's so funny? I said, I haven't heard it referred to like that before. And she chuckled and she goes, well, they have it coming. So I got a 2-week stay of execution.
Wow.
I got on the phone. I emailed them. We sent them letters. I blew up their secretary's phone, blew up one of the owner's phones. I blanketed them trying to get them to respond. Thursday night, all the levies went out. And Friday morning, I got a call from this. How did you let all of our accounts get levied as our attorney? Yeah, exactly. You're laughing. Where were you? And I just listed off because we track everything we do. These are all the phone calls I made. These are all the emails I sent. I filled up your secretary's phone. Oh, well, she was out on vacation. Nobody's checking her number. What about this owner? I called. That was the only other number I could get. I blew up his phone as well. They had 140,000 seized out of their account and had to file for business bankruptcy. Slightly worse one, believe it or not. A gentleman hired us, or tried to hire us. I told him don't hire us because it was too late. He had a first call to the revenue officer. He was trying to hire us Friday afternoon. He was going to pay us $7,000, and of course it's Friday afternoon.
Yep.
And I was able to get a hold of the revenue officer, and he said, "There's nothing you can do on this." And I said, "Oh, do tell." This guy owned a car lot, and he had played the game of hiring attorney after attorney, buying a little bit of time each time. And all you do is tick off the IRS. So this guy was sitting there waiting to come in with a fleet of tow trucks, and in his words, and bolt cutters, and he was going to haul every vehicle off of his property. You already had the legal order in to seize all of this property, and it's a pain in the butt to seize stuff. They hate to do it. So if you drive them to this, they will do it if you push them that far and annoy them that much, but they hate to do it. But the guy is like, if it comes on Monday, I don't care what you do or say, I'm going to go and haul off and take all of his vehicles. It could happen in 2 months or it could happen Monday or Tuesday. I don't know. But as soon as I get that order, that's exactly what I'm going to do. So I called the guy back and I said, are those your vehicles? No, they were all on consignment. Even worse. And I said, did you provide that proof to the revenue officer? Oh, he asked for them, but I haven't gotten around to it. So I told him, right now, go call a business bankruptcy attorney. That's the only way you can stop this. He called me back and he said, but he wants $20,000. I said, pay the man. Pay the man, or you're going to be in a world of hurt. So that's what he did. Didn't pay us, went and paid the man. It was just a mess. Yeah. Nice. So don't wait. The sooner you get good tax advice, the better.
Yes. And act on it.
And act on it. So a good story. This is a medical office, actually heart surgeons. And there was a group of 6 heart surgeons, and I was brought on board by the CPA. They had a snafu with their W-2s and W-3s, ended up owing $360,000. And they had a revenue officer sign. She came in. We had a sit-down meeting in person. And the first 20, 30 minutes of the meeting, she listed all the ways she could hurt them. Hit their bank accounts, hit their vendors, go after them personally, whole list of things.
Is that officer's sort of SOP? They come in and first show how serious the client needs, or the individuals need to take the situation?
Well, most of them don't take it seriously enough. But second of all, they have to warn them before they do that. And they send letters, they notify them. But the interesting thing here is, once she was done with that, we had already been on the case a few months already. I handed her a stack of paperwork, tabbed everything that she needed. And she went, oh, wow. And she's like, you already have all this ready? I'm like, yep, tell us what you need, what else you need from the list, and we'll get it. We worked with her, got her off the case, so none of the bad things happened, and put them on an installment agreement while we waited for the slow IRS bureaucracy to work. It took, I think, about 15 months for them to process all the W-2s and W-3s and correct all the mistakes that had been made. And during that time, they had paid in $93,000, something like that. They got a full refund. Nice. So the funny part of the story is the clients called us up and said, well, what did you do? Because all the bad things didn't happen to them.
Right.
So I said, look, you remember that conversation? Remember all the things that's what we typically see in these cases. Unless we get in early, we prevent it. But a funny story, this is probably my favorite story. This is a case where someone got bad advice. And if an attorney tells you just go to tax court, smack him in the face. If a tax attorney tells you that, don't run straight to tax court. They usually charge you $20,000 to $25,000 just to file. And I had one case where the guy filed in the wrong venue, which means he just filed in the wrong court.
Right.
Wrong place. Charged him $25,000, attached a lien to their home to make sure he got paid when the home finally sold. He got paid, but he just filed in the wrong venue. It got rejected, and he didn't refile in the correct venue. He did nothing else and got paid. Isn't that? Anyway, so This other story, this gal listened to other people, went to tax court, ended up with the DOJ. She owed around $600,000 total, going back to 2000. So she had this really old debt still sitting around. When things go to the DOJ, things stick around for 40 years, up to 40 years. And the normal rules and protections of the IRS don't matter anymore. So you have rules and regulations, you have more rights with the IRS than when you go to district court, and now you're fighting with the DOJ. So don't do it. And it's a lot more expensive.
Okay, I bet. So
she had $200,000 with the DOJ. We were able to freeze that and get them off. And she had another, I think it was around $450,000 that she owed with the IRS. Once we froze that and the DOJ hold came off, all the other debt expired and went away. So we called her with the good news, and I wanted to make sure it was accurate. So I pulled her transcripts, printed them out, highlighted them, emailed them to her. And as I'm emailing her, caller, I said, congratulations. The DOJ hold is on the other 200,000. They're not going to do anything anytime soon. And the other 450,000 has expired, gone away. And she got mad at me and started, she got really mad and frustrated. She goes, there's no way you're going to do this to me. I've already been pranked. It's April 1st. I'm not going to have my attorney making fun of me. It just happened to be April 1st. She
couldn't believe you. She couldn't believe you. That's funny.
And I said, check your email. Here's the transcripts. I highlighted it, and then it went to tears of joy. But it was just
funny.
Yeah. No, April 1st. I don't do the pranks and stuff, but yeah.
That'd be a mean April 1st prank.
Yeah, that's how I get a bar complaint.
Right? Funny. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. A lot of great stuff. People in trouble definitely need to know how to contact you. How do they find you? What should they do?
Best number is 520-485-7371. That's our main office line. And we have offices in Phoenix and Tucson. I recommend you go to our website, guardiantaxlaw.com. There's a link right there to all of my shows. They have all been uploaded to YouTube. Nice. And again, free to check out, all kinds of topics to cover, including the CTA, estimate tax payments, everything we've talked about and more. And we do a free consultation. So we really do that as a public service. And we don't charge until we actually step in and take on a case by filing power of attorneys with the IRS or state. So don't hesitate to call us, get steered in the right direction. And we save people thousands of dollars all the time just with a simple conversation.
Awesome. That's gold. Thank you very much, Hubert. Thank you, everybody, for listening, for watching. Thank you again, Hubert Johnson, for joining me today. We appreciate you sharing all those stories and insights into success and how to avoid failure with the IRS. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Inspired by our guests? Visit PhoenixProsperityPodcast.com/guest and join us on the show and share your success story with Tim. The spotlight awaits.